keeping it going with the 32nd season in 2008, and that was Engine Sentai Go-Onger. Okay, that's not exactly the complete roll call because there's supposed to be like a spin kick in there, but I can't exactly do that. So I have to say this was a fun season to watch. It was lighthearted, humorous, and entertaining. Going into this, I was kind of aware that it had a buddy theme because each ranger has a partner, and much like what I mentioned with Abba Ranger, the partner can communicate with the ranger outside of its mech form, and they actually find a way to let their partner fight human-sized for a limited amount of time somewhere down the line of the season. And so going back to the criteria that defined it as a buddy theme is that they were able to communicate with the rangers outside of being a mech. So they had little cartridges and they would load them into their phone or morpher or even like a charging station, and to kind of combine it with the fact that they weren't necessarily human, they did have a certain way of talking. They would end their sentences with a sound, like Speedor, who's I think supposed to be like part condor, ends his sentences with Dodu Dodu. Bus On, who's a bus and a lion, ends his sentences with on, and Bad RV. It kind of sounds better in Japanese. I think just ends her sentences with BB. And each character definitely had different personalities. It's kind of weird they only put one girl type mech, and that was Bear RV. Whereas with Abba Ranger, there was at least two. But I just could have used a little bit more of that dynamic, especially because there was an episode where Bear RV had a crush on one of the other mechs, and it didn't have another mech to talk about its problems with. It only talked about it with the other two female rangers. Speaking of female rangers, I like the fact that even though it didn't follow the conventional color format of like red, blue, yellow, green or black, and pink, they did manage to fit in two female rangers, and they increased their ranger count to 7, and the 6th ranger designation was actually given to one of the female rangers. And building further upon that, there's actually a fun thing that they do with this season. Some people might think it's corny, but they do like an idol thing where, so it's yellow and silver plus the female general on the villain side, and they had to make a little pop idol group to soothe a rampaging monster, and it was just fun. It was entertaining. I mean, the music is a variation of the ending theme, but they kind of J-pop idol it up, and they have like a little standalone music video that's fun to watch and listen to and dance to. It's fun, it's cute, I like it. Let's just say I'm not unfamiliar with idol groups. I'm still an amateur, but it's not like I haven't seen them before. It's not like I'm not aware of it. But it's cute, I like it. The villains were pretty lighthearted overall, and they really only brought in a serious villain like towards the end so that they could have a way to like conclude the season. And I thought the theming was interesting in that they are all based around pollution. So one's air pollution, water pollution, and land pollution. Interesting, also a bit of a terrifying, very sad message if you think about it. This kind of relates to one of the things that kind of threw me off, and I felt like this season was a pretty lighthearted humor season overall, and it actually reminded me of Car Ranger. So even though this season overall was lighthearted, it didn't feel like the parody levels that Car Ranger had, but it definitely fit that lightheartedness feeling. And kind of going into what threw me off, I felt like they totally could have done like some kind of crossover, or at least some Easter egg references to Car Ranger. I mean, other than the fact that they're cars, or even try to cross over with Turbo Ranger, which is before Jew Ranger, so I wouldn't have seen it. But something to have like all the car sort of theme Rangers have a super crossover, kind of like the dinosaurs or the ninjas would have been cool. Actually, in the next season, Kid Ranger is going to be somewhat car vehicle based as well. Going back to the buddy theme real quick, I think the reason why it didn't throw me off as much is because it kind of made sense of the design from Power Rangers RPM. Power Rangers RPM is regarded fairly highly in the like Power Rangers seasons, because it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of a theme, and the characters are fun. Watching Go-Onger kind of made sense of some of the designs that this season had, because I remember they did a really fun thing in Power Rangers RPM. They kind of went a little meta, broke the fourth wall, and then they had a question and answer seminar, and they asked the doctor, or they asked Dr. K, who made all the Zords and equipment. They're like, what are those? What? Those eyes, those googly anime eyes. It's like, they're not eyes, they're visual receptors or whatever. It's like, those look like eyes to me. So it's just funny how this one made sense of those designs. It's like, now it made sense in my head. I'm like, oh, that's why they look that way. And so I think something about the buddy theme is kind of really Japanese. Like, it reminds me of Digimon, in that everyone had a partner, or at least maybe a set of partners, or even Pokemon. Even though in Pokemon they don't really interact and communicate with the people the same way, they have this partner relationship. Whereas with Power Rangers, it's always like more like a pet, I guess. Whereas when they do it in the Japanese style, it's like not that people don't have special relationship with their pets, but this one is more even, I guess, if that makes any sense. Kind of going back to how I'm kind of relating the buddy theme relationship to Digimon, even the ending was kind of similar in that, maybe I should have mentioned this before, but so all the engines are from a different dimension, and they explain that there's multiple dimensions. Like, there's a samurai world, which is actually related to the summer movie, and two of the episodes in the season, and then there's a Christmas world, which actually I think is somewhat relevant in the Go-Onger Shinkenger crossover Gunman world. There's these all there's a bunch of different dimensions, and so kind of going back to that, spoiler alert about the ending. At the end they had to say goodbye to their partners, and the partners had to go back to their world, and then they do like a year later time jump. Everyone's kind of resuming their lives, but then they come back together, and they have a moment, like, when they're together, like, all the engines reappear. And that actually reminds me of one of the endings for Digimon, and I think it was the whatever the third season was that Digimon Tamers, It was like, you know, at the finale they had to say goodbye to their partners, but then they do like a time jump thing, and they don't exactly meet them again, but they find the portal back to them. So it's implied that they're able to see them again. So I just saw like a certain similarity there, and it's gonna be one of those things. I wonder if that's just the sort of standard ending with, saying goodbye to someone and being able to see them again, or if that's rooted in anything I don't know about. Something that threw me off was apparently there's something between Sosuke and Miyu, or Go-On Red and Go-On Silver, because I didn't notice it until big moments happened. It was, maybe I missed a few things along the way. Maybe it was a lot more subtle than the previous crush relationships before, but I only noticed it in big moments. Like there was an episode where Sosuke, got turned bad, and it was Miyu who actually confronted him, or when, spoiler alert, towards the middle, Sosuke temporarily dies, and she has like a pretty hard reaction to it. I don't know, it was just, I didn't notice it until the big moments. Maybe it was a different approach, maybe I missed something, or maybe it was just kind of done a little weird, but I just thought I'd mention that. So kind of going back to the things that threw me off, I think I kind of mentioned it, so sometimes the summer movies that they have are semi-canon. Sometimes they'll play an importance, sometimes they won't really. This one was actually, it was like reference for like a two-parter episode, so I definitely feel like I missed something, and I could have understood more of what was going on if I actually seen that summer movie. So hopefully in the future I'll have a chance to watch it and I can make more sense of it. I don't know why I feel the need to mention it, but they do have a nice, fun ending dance, and I think they call it the engine rap, because each time there's different iterations of it, talking about each of the different engines, and they have one where they do all of them, and then even the eye catch, which I think hadn't been done in a while, and everyone's racing, and then there's one person who wins each time, and then of course at the finale everyone wins, and I don't know, that's fun. Oh, the reason why now that I remember, the reason why I wanted to mention that is because the animated version of the souls, or the partners, is cute. It's a fun design. It's like kind of chibi anime-ish. So when the souls aren't in their big mech forms, or they're being projected through the Rangers morphers, or through like the charging stations, there's a projection of the engine souls, or the partners, and they have this like cute chibi anime design that I don't know, I thought it was cute. It's fun. I like it. I say that a lot. It's fun. I like it. This was just a really fun season overall. And so with that being said, I guess just right into my favorite episode. And my favorite episode, or they call it GP or Grand Prix, was Grand Prix 36, Sosuke Eternally. As enjoyable as the season was to watch, and how fun it was, and kind of emulating that same humor that Car Ranger had, it still had a lot of heart, because when I talked about Car Ranger and my favorite episode for that it managed to show some heart, this episode pretty much did the same. I wrote here, like, with a few tweaks, it could have been like finale worthy, like it, because this was episode 36 out of like 50, which is more than half the season, but they still have a good amount of episodes to go. And like with a few tweaks, it could have been finale worthy, because they actually defeat like one of the, like, I guess amongst the three generals, they actually defeat like the top general. So what happens in this episode is spoiler alert, in the previous episode, I think this was a 2-part or 3-parter, but Sosuke has a major fight with one of the villain generals, and that was he's like amongst the 3, he's like the top general, because he's the main villain at the end. That's his son. It's Land Pollution Minister Yogo-stein. They fight. Sosuke gets infected with something, not like a poison, but he gets infected with something, and he essentially dies at the end of that episode. And then going into the next episode, which is the episode I'm currently supposed to be talking about, he's like bronzed, or he becomes like a statue, and presumed dead. And with that, all the Rangers are devastated, and this is like the one where I mentioned Miyu has like the hardest reaction that I noticed, and like, oh, was there something going on between those two? Anyway, and then with this, they go out and they try to defeat Yogo-stein, and it showed a lot of heart, and it showed their loyalty to Sosuke, who is like, it's not that he's incompetent, but let's just say he has certain qualities that balance out his effectiveness as a leader. Speaking of his effectiveness as a leader, everyone's hard reactions and their desire to, redeem him, and their desire to defeat the main villain for, defeating Sosuke, and, shows how effective he was as a leader, because, they have this loyal bond to him, because, I think, when they're all, mourning, they kind of think about, oh, what would Sosuke do? He wouldn't just sit around and do nothing. He would try to do something about it. And it shows his effectiveness as a leader and his ability to inspire others. And I feel like that was something that showed a lot of heart. So overall, this was just a fun, entertaining season to watch, and it had a lot of heart to balance it out. Much like they had that time skip where they didn't see their friends for a while, and then they get a chance to see their friends again and go on more adventures. I can't wait to come back and watch the 10 years after special that Go-Onger had.